Okay, we're live. Hi, this is William Ramsey. Welcome to William Ramsey Investigates. On tonight's show, we have a very special guest, Johnny Ironshow Johnny from his Iron Show that he's been doing a long time. But he reached out to me after I did the show where I said with Valibus that we did not go to the moon. So he is going to set me straight. And this has nothing to do with the flat Earth, but I'm going to show some video and he's going to show some of his stuff so he can prove that. And I'm going to point out some problems and discrepancies with the moon landing story. So, Johnny, are you there?
Yes, I am. Hey, Bill, what's up, man?
Not much. Same old stuff. How have you been? For people who may not know your background, can you talk a little bit about the Iron Show and how you came to your understanding of the United States landing on the moon?
Well, let's see. I was born in 1962. And so I watched the moon landings, live when I was almost 7 years old in 1969. And, growing up, that was the space age. And so I grew up with all of it. And so, I can understand how these kids these days think, how could it be possible that we actually landed on the moon? Because we haven't gone back.
Right.
But, yeah, I can sympathize. Our generation, the generation before me, the people that went to the moon, they were very, very talented and smart individuals. So,
well, they must have been to get all the way there and back with that rickety-looking moon lander right there. And
it's rickety.
Yeah. How did they get that thing to land and then take off? And then they got back to another booster and flew that back to Earth. It's pretty incredible. 1969, is that right?
Yes, it was July 1969.
Right. So, when I talked last time, there was all kinds of issues with the lighting. There's obviously no stars in the background. There's no atmosphere on the moon, right? So even this picture that I'm showing right here, with no atmosphere, the heavens should be glistening like diamonds in the background. So you have a totally black background. And you also have kind of strange lighting. You have some kind of weird backlit. And there's clearly water on the moon, right? If those footprints are stable, that means the moon has water, right?
No.
Okay, so why are those footprints etched into the sand there?
Because it's powder. It's like so what Neil Armstrong said when he put his foot into it, he said it's like almost like talcum powder. It's firm, but it's very, very fine powdery.
Gotcha. So that's just one. Let's just go through my things, and then you can prove me wrong. How's that sound? Okay. So here's another one. Here's another picture, backlit. Clearly, you can see the shadow. Light should only be coming from one way, right?
No, it would be coming from a few different directions.
So why is it coming from another? Is it just coming from ambient light with no stars, or where's it coming from?
Okay, first of all, we're going to have to. This was taken with a film camera. Yeah. Okay, so first of all, we're going to have to talk about no stars. You are not going to get on the Earth. You do not see stars in the daytime. Even if you didn't have an atmosphere, you wouldn't see stars in the daytime. Your eyes have a thing called an f-stop, and cameras have them too, obviously, which are way more primitive than your eyeballs. But you cannot, in the daylight, you can't see stars. And in a camera, a Hasselblad camera, film camera, the f-stop is set for bright daylight, and you are not going to see any stars in broad daylight. You're just not going to see them. It doesn't matter if you have an atmosphere or not. So that explains no stars. They couldn't even, the astronauts themselves couldn't even see the stars when it was daylight on the moon.
Okay, well, here's another one. I'm glad you brought up the camera because there was no digital cameras back then, right?
No.
So they're taking camera pictures with old film, right? And being exposed to radiation, at least through space, just being on the moon, and supposedly going through the Van Allen belt, right?
Yeah, they had it shielded. They had a Hasselblad camera that was custom made, and it was shielded. Okay. So that protected it from any kind of cosmic rays that might develop on the film. But they accounted for all of that, yeah.
Okay, so
they had a very expensive and custom-made Hasselblad camera. I think they had a couple of them. And yeah, film camera. That's why you're not seeing any stars. The f-stop is set high for broad daylight, and it's incredibly bright daylight on the surface of the moon. You don't have any atmosphere protecting you. You're getting really hit hard with bright sunlight, way brighter than you would see on the Earth.
Right. So the picture you see here is due to the specialized camera and specialized exposure, correct?
Yes, the f-stop. Do you know what an
I
f-stop?
understand. Yeah, I do. It's just how much light comes through.
Right. Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's watch this. Here's my next one.
Okay. Wait, you said several lights or like different lights.
Okay. Well, we want to go back to this one. I mean,
yeah.
Supposedly on the Earth, on the moon, you're getting sunlight from the sun, right?
Yeah.
So this guy somehow there's some reflection that's lighting him up.
Yes,
right?
He's
in shadow.
You've got a few different light sources. You've got the sun, then you've got the sun reflecting off the surface of the moon, off the lunar regula, back onto the astronaut, and then you've got the sunlight reflecting off the gold foil that's all around the Eagle, the lunar lander. Then you also have Earth light, which is brighter than moonlight. So you've got a few different light sources going there.
Okay, that makes sense. Here's another one. Let's try this one. Watch this thing take off. It looks like this is incredible on a variety of different levels. Okay, we'll just watch it. We'll watch it a few times.
Wow, look at it powering. That's cool.
That's it. Takes off.
Awesome. See as he's grabbing the controls and he's trying to keep it level as he's lifting off. Wow. I'm telling you, Neil Armstrong, what a guy.
So this is supposedly it taking off, right? This is it taking off from I don't even know which supposed one. Is it 11?
That's
so
yeah.
Where's the rocket that's powering it? And who is on the ground? How is this cameraman following this lunar lander as it takes off?
It's not. They had a broadcast camera, a CRT broadcast camera. What do you call those? The first video cameras. They have a certain name of the cells, but it was a video broadcast camera. And they set it up and pointed it at the lander, and then they got in there and blasted. And it's still there. The camera's still there.
So you can still get a telescope and see it.
Not with a telescope. Telescopes don't really work that way.
Okay.
But
it looks to me like this is maybe something was done with the video, but it sure looks like somebody's panning and following it up out of the orbit, right? Does that look like that to you? Because somebody's following the object. The object is being followed by a camera.
I don't know a lot of details about how they set up that video camera. Okay. It is a pan. It's panning up.
Yeah. So somehow it's panning up.
Remote controlled.
Right. So maybe it's remote controlled by somebody from 2 seconds of delay from Earth.
At mission
control. So it's 2-minute delay, but they're following it right on point, right?
No, there's no delay from Earth to the moon.
Yeah, there is. No, there's a 2-second delay. Sorry.
Well, not 2 seconds. A second, 1.5 seconds. So yeah.
So you accept that there's a delay from Earth to the moon.
1.5 seconds. 1.5 seconds.
1.5. Okay. So I'm just trying to show. This is another funny one.
Time to pan up.
Yeah. So somehow that is panning.
Yeah.
Right? Somehow that panned up with technology from 1968.
1969. Yeah. We had pretty good technology in 69 as far as cameras, because we had been using video cameras since the late 40s.
Yeah, that's true. Here's another of my favorite. So this is supposed to be on the moon. I don't know which moon it was. They're playing golf, goofing around, right? And you understand that the gravity on the moon is different than the gravity on the Earth, right?
1/6.
Right. So 1/6 of the gravity on the moon as on the Earth. So it's much lighter.
You're much lighter. Yeah. If you weigh 100 pounds on Earth, you weigh like 18 pounds on the moon.
Right. So these guys are cruising around. They're weighted down. This is
look how
supposed.
easy they're walking with all that gear on. They're just hopping around with. I think their gear was like they weighed 450 pounds like total, and they're just hopping around because they don't weigh anything on the moon.
Right. So the weirdest followers.
They can just fall down and push back up, and I mean that gear was heavy. If you're trying to walk around like that on the Earth, no way.
Right. So it looks normal. Oh, Bob just dropped something. It fell just like Earth orbit. Watch.
What?
Watch. Oh.
Yeah. Oh, something will fall.
Yeah,
it'll fall just as fast.
Are you sure? It's a different gravity.
It doesn't matter. The speed would be the same.
Oh, I don't know about that. That fell just exactly like it was on Earth.
Yeah, it doesn't.
I mean, if it's the speed, the gravity is different.
First of all, we don't know. That's clearly that whole thing is sped up, way up. So whoever's trying to make it fake, look how fast they're moving. It's like an old time movie from the 20s. Give me a break. I mean, come on. Look how fast they're going. If in real life, that's like half as fast. See, that's like double speed. Look at them. Come on. See, that's what they do. They have to that up to make it look bad. They do all these tricks. It's just that's what bothers me about these guys. They know full well what they're doing. They're deceiving. That's evil. Excuse me. That's evil. That's lying to you.
Yeah, but then you can go. Yeah, or how did the dune buggy fit into the lunar lander?
Oh, that was really cool. There's a I don't know if you watch any NASA TV, but there's a whole like hour and a half special documentary on how the guy that invented the lunar rover and how they folded it up and stuck it in that one compartment. It's really cool. It folds up like a suitcase, more than a suitcase. It's pretty cool. It's like one of those Transformer toys. Yeah, that's how they fit it in there. Yeah, it was they had one compartment on the bottom of the lander. It was the only spot they could put it in. And they told him, look, if you can get it to fit in here, we'll send it up. And he's like, wow, he just racked his brains and he finally figured out it folds in half. And then the wheels fold in the wheels all fold in. It really gets small. It gets to be like at least 1/3 of original size, or less than a half, I should say.
All right, so there's the picture of it supposedly folded up, right?
Yeah, see it folded up. Yeah. And if you can see it, there's a special on it, and they have all the original footage from back then, and they show you how the wheels all fold up. They show it doing it, and it was all automatic. They just hit one button and everything unfolded, but it got stuck. So they had to manually grab it and they were starting to panic. I don't know which rover they had problems with. I
think it was supposedly the last expedition to the moon was the Land Rover.
I don't think
it was the first one.
I thought they did 2 rover missions.
That sounds right.
But one of them, the wheels got stuck and they had to pry it. The wheels the guy shows you on the Earth. He shows you, look, you just press this button and the whole thing just unfolds itself. But yeah, I got stuck.
This is them doing it right now, supposedly.
Yeah, that's them prying on it. Yeah. Look how sped that up that is to make their case. They got to speed it up like 3 times.
Right. I don't know. This is not like an anti-moon landing video. I just popped it up.
Oh.
This is just something showing the lunar lander. So why haven't we been back there for 50 years?
I'll tell you why. Money. It cost, by the time we had sent the last Apollo, I think it was Apollo 17. By the time we had landed the last mission on the moon, we had spent the equivalent of the gross national product of the entire Earth. And people were raving angry about it because, what are you doing? We could be feeding poor people. We could, we could be creating jobs. We could be feeding the hungry in Afghanistan or Pakistan or Africa or whatever. And and the money, it was so expensive. By the time we got to the moon the first time in 1969, excuse me. In 1969, we had spent the equivalent of the gross national product of the entire United States. By the time Apollo 17 landed, we'd spent the equivalent of the gross national product of the entire world. So the money was insane. But Obama wanted to go back, and so they launched the Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter to map the moon and to look for places to land. That was its mission. One of its objectives right off the bat was to get photos of the lunar landing sites, because, that was they didn't announce that as one of the objectives, but that's the first thing they went after. And so obviously they're angry. Buzz Aldrin punched a guy in Vegas and said, "You never landed on the moon." He dropped him. I would have dropped him too. You imagine going through all that and then somebody saying you're a liar.
But don't you think even like the first three guys, Armstrong and I can't remember the other two, kind of never really had that heroic kind of sensibility when they got back? Like they just went into kind of normal lives, I guess. I wouldn't expect that.
Well, they did a world tour.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And they did have psychological problems because they had gone to the moon. Now what?
Right.
Go to Disneyland?
I guess so how do they get through the Van Allen belt? That's another perfect question. Because the Van Allen belt is like what, 25 sieverts or something like that? 25 sieverts, where it's like 5 sieverts will kill you.
Yeah, it's alpha and beta particles. It's not gamma rays. It's not ionizing radiation. And they flew through it at like 17,000 miles an hour. So they weren't in it very long.
That's really supposed to.
And they had the lunar injection was designed to bypass the rough parts of the Van Allen belt. And they did see a wild display in their eyeballs when they went through it. Just nothing but colors, just colors everywhere. And it freaked them out because the alpha and beta particles went into their eyeballs and bounced around, and it just created this psychedelic light show until they got out of it. So a lot of people say, the Van Allen belt's full of radiation. Yeah, alpha and beta radiation, not gamma radiation, X-rays, not ionizing radiation like you get off of a nuclear bomb. It's just not. I mean, there are some X-rays and gamma rays in it, but it's the equivalent of a barrage of pretty heavy chest X-rays at the hospital. You're gonna get hit. So the lunar injection went the best course through the Van Allen belt very quickly.
That's what it says here. They supposedly went through a different part of the Van Allen belt, but there's a lot that indicates like that they were able to kind of manipulate their time and space kind of and not go. It seems like they would have to go out of their way in a strange path to avoid Van Allen inner and outer belts.
And they did, hence the term lunar injection. Yes. They had to inject themselves at a weird angle to get through the weak part of the Van Allen belt. And that's what they did. That's why they called it the lunar injection. And it was tricky. It was a tricky move. And thank God we had the really high quality, test pilots, doing it. And these guys were all test pilots. Eisenhower made sure of everybody in the space program was a test pilot. Not only were they test pilots, they were very highly educated. Some of them had doctorates.
Hmm.
So that's a very rare individual to be a brave, bold test pilot and then be a doctor of engineering or whatever. That's a rare combination. These were very, very special men, really the best of the best.
Ken Ami says hi. He says shalom, actually. But,
Ken. Love Ken Ami. We did a show together. We did an Iron Show. It was great. But yeah.
I know people keep mentioning his name like he's a celebrity. People keep asking me questions like, hey, man, you got to ask this guy this question. And then he doesn't want to answer the questions.
He is a celebrity. I love Ken.
I think he's a celebrity.
We did a killer Iron Show about the Giants, the Nephilim. They're not giants, he says. No, they're not.
I know. Well, that's why I learned all the Nephilim didn't make it through the flood.
Yeah. But so
what other proofs? I mean, okay. So like, if you look at people who say we didn't go, there's problems with the technology at the time. Van Allen belt, the lighting of the stuff was sketchy. I mean, you can see the Masuko film, and he's showing it to lighting experts, going, "Yeah, this isn't something that's from the moon." I mean, it looks to me, it looks staged. Like some of those things do not look like they're on another planetary body. To be honest with you, there would be stars in the background. You say it's all because of the way the camera works.
The F stuff. No, there's no way. Why aren't there stars in the day? Have you ever gone out in the daytime and seen the stars? No. I've
seen one big star. It's called the moon.
Well, yeah, you can see the really bright ones. Venus. You can see Venus. You can see the moon. Barely. You can barely see him. But even your eyes have an f-stop. So, yeah, no. When they were when they were in darkness on the moon, the astronauts had never seen anything so black, and they'd never seen so many stars. That's every time you see interviews with the astronauts, they'll tell you, and it's one of the things they say. They were amazed that they'd never seen so many stars. They never thought that so many stars could exist. There's nowhere on Earth you can get a view like that. If you're in the shadow of the moon, going around the dark side of the moon and looking out into space, wow. It's one of the things they always say. The technology at the time was advanced. America had scientists and engineers and designers from the entire Earth. That's why America got to the moon, is because we represented the entire planet. We had Chinese, we had people from Africa, all over Europe. We had von Braun from Germany, and he got us there with the Saturn V, and that we had the technology was impressive for back then. Their computer didn't have much more power than a cheap digital watch that you would get for $1.50 or $1 at Dollar Tree or Dollar General, depending on where you're listening. And it choked up when they were landing. And they had to reset it. But it was the very best technology that the world could produce at the time, and it got us there.
Short amount of time, astros, unexplained objects. Let's see, where else is we? Lack of stars. That's kind of my argument.
Yeah, well, f-stop. I mean, that's very easy. I mean, that's what cameras do in the broad daylight on the lunar surface, in pure daylight with no atmosphere to shield you. Oh man, you don't even know what bright is until you've been on the lunar surface. It's bright. It would blind you. You'd have snow blindness. They had to have a layer of gold over their face visors in order to shield them from all that sunlight. It was intense. So yeah, you are not going to see stars on the surface of the moon in the daytime. It's not going to happen. These are just very simple answers that people who are educated in these areas can answer very easily. But if you don't know anything about that stuff, you think you have a case, and you don't have a case.
Gotcha.
Because we sent the Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter in 2009, and we built it in Moscow, and it was a joint effort with the Russians, and they supplied the neutron detector, and they had access to all the images, and we mapped the entire surface of the moon, and we have pictures, we have photos of Apollo 11.
All right, let me show you those photos. There they are, right here. These are ostensibly the photos of them walking around. Yeah,
we have the lunar rover with the tracks in the lunar regula. It's making tracks all over the Taurus Lithoral Valley. Apollo 17. We have pictures of the Sea of Tranquility. Apollo 11. We have images of 4 different landings. And the thing is, if you don't believe it, and Rob Skiba doesn't believe it, and Joe Blow doesn't believe it, it doesn't matter, because the Russians, our enemies, believe it. They've seen it. The Chinese, they've sent probes there. They've sent their own reconnaissance orbiters there. They've seen our gear there. They know we landed there, and that's all that matters. And that's why, one of the reasons why we haven't been attacked, because we got to the moon. We're the country that got to the moon in a 1969 Chevy, and our enemies know it. They know it for a fact. So I mean, anybody down here can say, the regular citizen, who isn't educated in space or the space program or orbital mechanics or any of that, will just say, oh, we never went there, right? I don't trust NASA. NASA lies. Okay, well, that's a perfect argument. You're in a really good position to say that, because the only way I can prove to you that we landed on the moon is through images from NASA, right? So
if NASA's baloney, then those images are fake, and
all you got to say is NASA lies, and the whole argument's blown out the window.
The NASA lies argument also works for the flat earthers too. They think NASA is actually a conspiratorial body keeping the truth from the public.
Oh yeah, flat earthers, moon landing deniers. I mean, you're all the same.
Careful.
Oh, yeah. Careful. I'm poking the bear.
No, you're not. I mean, I'm just saying, the Earth is obviously not flat. I think that there's problems with the moon landing story. There's problems with some of the videos, but
if you have
there's countervailing information, there's definitely is.
If you have Hulu, you can go and it's a tour of the moon in 4K. If you got a 4K TV, and the Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter, after they mapped it, the entire surface of the moon, they put together a picture of a composite of it, of the whole thing. And you can watch, it's 5 minutes long, and it'll show you all the different craters, like the South Pole, Shackleton crater, and they'll go right in and show you, right there at the Taurus Lithoral Valley, they'll show you the lander of Apollo 17, and you can see the tracks in the lunar regula from the lunar rover. Then they'll pan over, and it'll show you the lunar rover sitting there plain as day. These pictures that you have, that you're showing, are the initial pictures when they were entering orbit, and they have much, much higher resolution images now. You just have to know where to look. They're hard to find, but
these photos look pretty legit.
In that animation, they have really high resolution images of the lunar landing sites, and really good on the Sea of Tranquility, really good at the Taurus Lithoral Valley, really good. And the most important thing to take away from this conversation is that I really don't care if somebody doesn't believe we landed on the moon. What I care about is, what do our enemies think, and what did they know? And they know we made it. They sent their own vehicles. Now, the only way to prove it to Joe Blow on the street would be to give him a reconnaissance orbiter, and hand him the keys and have him, and have him send it there to the moon so that he can look for himself with his own gear. right? So other than that, you can't prove it. There's no way to actually prove it to the average citizen. But, I hear people saying on these shows, well, we've never actually even launched anything into orbit that's over 300 or 400 miles out there. I've heard that. I've heard people say that.
Say that all the time, right?
Yeah, but okay, if you don't trust NASA, okay, how about your satellite TV, Dish Network, EchoStar 16, or it's probably EchoStar 18 now. It's out there 16,000 miles. Hello. You don't trust NASA? How about Dish Network? How about DirecTV? I mean, there's communication.
Right. Well, then you're into like even broader thing, like whether satellites are real or the Earth is flat. You're into kind of a view of reality that it's much broader and encompassing in a cosmology that's beyond whether we went to the moon or not.
Right, but you can, even Rob Skiba acknowledges that there are satellites because that was one of his jobs in the Air Force, was to go around and point to these satellites, point dishes at these satellites. And he did it from a lot of different places on the Earth. And he was pointing at the same satellites. So he knew the triangulation. He knew where that satellite was. And in order for you to point your satellite dish at the Dish Network EchoStar satellite in Mexico, you point it at the same place, and then in Canada, you're pointing at the same satellite, and by triangulation, you could tell it's 16,000 miles out. I mean, there's just no denying it. That's something that you can do if you're ready to travel with a dish. You can find out, exactly where that satellite is, and we have enemies, that have satellites out there too, and they have pictures of the Earth. And I think we have satellites that are really far out. The Halo Observatory, the Sun Observatory, is in the L1 Lagrange point, and that's almost 1 million miles out.
Yeah, what's that? So this is the picture you wanted me to show right here, right?
Yeah, I just wanted to, you say. There's people that say, oh, we've never launched anything more than a couple hundred miles out there into orbit. But we have, if you're looking at the image, we have the Sun Halo Observatory, the Solar Observatory, parked in the L1 Lagrange point. That's almost 1 million miles out. It's very high 900,000s, very close to 1 million miles out. The Lagrange points are very fascinating, especially to me. You're into orbital mechanics, they're fascinating.
Yeah. So what is a Lagrange point?
A Lagrange point is a place of it's a pocket of null gravity, where the L1 Lagrange point's the easiest one to understand. You've got an object out there, and when it gets so far out, the sun is pulling on it just as hard as the Earth is, because it's between the Earth and the sun. So it'll get stuck right there. It'll get stuck right there because the pull on the Earth, the pull from the Earth, the pull from the sun is equal. And so to get to that pocket there, that L1 Lagrange point, it's about 1 million miles out. So we've got a satellite, and it's been there. They thought it would last 2 years. It's on its 24th year. It's still working. It's feeding spaceweather.com. And you can go there. You can see pictures, live pictures from the Halo Observatory, parked 1 million miles out in the L1 Lagrange point. And the Lagrange points are fascinating. The L5 and the L4 are so stable that things get stuck there. So there's one trailing us in orbit, and there's one ahead of us in orbit. And those Lagrange points, those pockets, are so stable it things get trapped there. So we've got a whole bunch of junk and rocks and stuff in front of us in orbit and behind us in orbit.
Wow, that's fascinating.
Yeah, that's and if you look at the L3 Lagrange point, that's on the other side of the sun, right?
Right.
How does that work? That's fascinating. And the image will show, it shows gravity. It shows the gravity well, because gravity bends space-time. So you can see the gravity wells below, and you can get an idea of how these Lagrange points work, why they're pockets, what makes them pockets, and why things get trapped there. But we tried to send the stereoscopic satellites to one on the other side of the sun in that L3 Lagrange point, and one on this side of the sun at the L1, but we lost the L3. We don't know what happened to it.
Right, but the L1 is still there sending information for 24 years, right?
Yes, the Halo Observatory, the Halo Solar Observatory. And that's kind of, I hang out at spaceweather.com. I'm always looking at the sun. It's getting angry. We're heading into solar cycle 25, and it's really, wow, we had a really rough solar storm here about 4, 5, 6 days ago. And we had a couple flares heading right at us, but luckily they weren't man enough to hurt us. But
so you got a question. How does your guest feel about people who think this all doesn't matter?
How does Johnny feel about people who think this all doesn't matter? I think that's fine because everybody's got their hobby, right?
Right.
Everybody's got their interests. You know, I'm interested in space. I'm interested in physics, cosmology, all that. That's my area of interest. I'm interested in it. And if somebody else has absolutely no interest in it, that's fine. You know, some people like to skateboard. I love skateboarding, but most people don't want to skateboard. Yeah. You know,
Right.
is that, well, how do you feel about somebody who's not interested?
I think that they're brain dead. I think it's really important. I think it's very important to know what's going on in the stars and moon and technology, satellites, everything like that on a global Earth, right? So, I mean,
Okay.
Yeah, there's no doubt that the Earth is a globe. I think everything in the known firmament is spherical.
Yeah, because that's the shape of gravity. The reason that they're spherical is because gravity pulls everything evenly towards the center of mass. And gravity is another thing that's fascinating to me that not that many people are interested in. We don't know exactly what gravity is, but
we know it's a force, right? We don't know why it's a force.
Exactly. We know it's measurable. We know it's observable. We know it's a force, but what exactly is it? What's the nature of it? What is it? Are there such things as gravitons, right? Things like that. Is it a particle? Is it a wave, right? But the latest research, which is done by Kip Thorne at UCLA, I think, or Berkeley, he is that's fascinating. He has postulated, he has a theory called the time dilation theory, and we know that mass slows time. We know that any massive object in space slows time. So when you are at the center of the Earth, time is moving slower than when you're up there with the Dish Network satellite. So we know that mass slows time. So what Kip Thorne has proposed is, and other physicists and cosmologists has proposed, is that gravity is related to the law of entropy, where everything wants to slow down. So so if you're up in orbit and you're falling towards the Earth, there's not actually a force acting on you. It's the matter in your body being wildly attracted to an area of slower time. So the rate of time dilation is small. I mean, at the center of the Earth, there's only it's only running a few seconds slower than it would be in a high orbit. So a few seconds per century, like let's say 5-6 seconds slower per century. But we're talking, and doesn't sound like much, but we're talking about time itself. And time itself may be the most powerful force in the universe. So that's the latest theory. It's fascinating to me. Yeah. Objects moving, being attracted to slower areas of time. Everything wants to slow down. The energy inside of matter, what keeps an atom going? There's an insane amount of energy. Just, just a little piece of anything. The atoms in there, the energy holding them together is, what happens when we start splitting them? We get a nuclear bomb.
Right.
And
nuclear reaction.
And that all wants to slow down so badly. Because of entropy, everything wants to slow down. It's the path of least resistance, kind of like that. It's fascinating.
I agree. Yeah. I think that I think I'll have to go back and relook at everything again because I think that there's real problems with the space launch. I mean, honestly, technology, Van Allen belt, pictures, radiation, electronics, all that stuff. Like you give all these guys a lot of credit, like superstars, and they made it back. But like, there's problems even with the lander. That's not enough energy for it to get back up and out of the moon. There's just really, I mean, there's still problems for me. But I'm not fully convinced we didn't go. I'm not fully convinced we went.
Hey, you got Kip Thorne up there.
I do.
Yeah,
Yep.
I mean, if you're not into it, I mean, you can go to like, if you wanted to ask like a rocket scientist about all this stuff, they could explain it to you. Or anybody at NASA could go through these things one at a time, and they have. NASA has expended a lot of money to refute this whole thing. You know, it's sad. You know, they've spent, having to go to so much effort just to prove that we went there.
Prove it, because I mean, I think at that time it would be a remarkable achievement, no doubt. Ken to me is interested in cosmetology. He likes the way things look. He wants to keep things looking good.
Cosmetology is makeup,
right? He's cosmetology is a subset of cosmology. That is how you like the universe to look.
Well, Ken is so pretty that, I mean, obviously he's going to be interested in cosmetology.
Yeah, no doubt. Very important. It's like a subset of, theoretical physicists. It's a subset.
Yeah. And yeah, I can understand Ken's point of view. I mean, he wanted to borrow my lipstick the other day. So
right.
I think it's obvious, I didn't have the shade that he wanted. So, I mean, I feel kind of bad. I let him down, but I don't know. I think he'll get over it. Give him enough time. Anyway.
I think, is there anything else you'd like to add? Anything, I missed? Or, I think the proofs, I think that there's a lot of information there that could prove these pictures were taken on the moon. But some of those things look fake. Like some of those things look like sets to me. So
the problem is that they got Stanley Kubrick involved in case they didn't make it. And that messed everything up. They should have never done that, And some of the pictures that you see
manipulated.
They may have been his productions that were set up in case they didn't make it. Well, that was I don't know. The CIA probably got involved. Say, hey, we have to make it to the moon, even if we don't.
It's a matter of national security, right?
Yeah. So they get Stanley.
Oh, you don't know Von Braun? I don't know if this is real or not. I don't know if this is shopped. That's a picture I found of Von Braun.
I have no doubt that they had a backup plan in case they didn't make it. I'm not going to argue that point. I've seen the evidence.
Right.
There's just, but I learned a lot about Von Braun lately, and I didn't know this, but he preceded the Nazis with America, his relationship with Jack Parsons. They had been friends and corresponding since like 1931 when Von Braun was 17 years old. He had heard about Von Braun's experiments in Germany when Von Braun was a teenager, and Jack Parsons and him had developed a correspondence, and they had been communicating back and forth, weekly since Von Braun was 17. That was before the Nazis or anything. So,
wow, that's incredible.
Yeah. And that's and then JPL obviously got absorbed by NASA when it was created. But yeah, isn't that interesting?
Very, very. I've held Von Braun's calculations. He had all his calculations in a book in a library. And I was like, this guy is a total genius because he's doing all kinds of pre-calculator calculations. The book was from like 1940, 1942, and it was like a book of a magician, but all mathematics. Really
yeah, cool. He was a genius at a level that I can't comprehend because I'm not a genius. One thing I'd like to say before I go, I know we're getting long in the tooth here. We're just about out of time. I wanted to say that you can't discredit like NASA and all the scientists and everybody, the engineers, by saying that they're, or the astronauts, especially the astronauts, you can't discredit their accomplishments by claiming that they were Freemasons or whatever their theological views were or philosophical views were. They could have all been Satan worshipers. They would have still gotten us to the moon. I mean, how can you, guilt by association as far as theology? I mean, you can't, I've heard that argument a lot and it doesn't make any sense to me. Who cares what they believed? They were scientists. They were engineers. It doesn't matter.
Right.
Anyway,
Johnny, thanks so much for your time, man. I really appreciate it. I think that people need to look at all these facts and look at everything else too when you really want to assess this, because there's a lot of documentation out there. I was just looking through stuff today. Those pictures of the moon, all that stuff. It's kind of It's pretty problematic to say we didn't go. I don't know.
It really is. There's just way too much proof. Oh, my microphone just lit up huge. I got to get a new cord. Anyway, dude,
Johnny, take care.
Bill, we go back.
Yeah, God bless.
Me and you go back.
I know. We go back to the beginning, 2010, 2011.
Yeah. 2009, dude.
2009. So, wow.
Yeah. 12 years, baby. So I love you, man.
I love you too.
Real.
I love you. Take care.
Later, bro.
Later.